This house is a Bluey house. Actually, no, it's a bingo house, but that's not what the show is called. Except that one episode, of course.
This episode of Bingo is called Bingo.
And that was glorious. It's how the little tomato knows my name. I'm Dad. Also gives me a chance to show off my cool dance moves. There was, of course, a game called Bluey the video game on all major consoles, PC, currently on Game Pass and PS Plus, and it's not very good. It's a weird game where you can see that some effort has gone into it, but only in parts and not in others, resulting in a very disjointed experience through both gameplay and presentation that ultimately is just not very fun to play. It only lasted an hour and a half though, so a bit of a kick in the teeth for anyone that paid the $40 bucks or whatever currency you're paying in at full price. But that's fine. That was made by Outright Games, one of the two companies along with Game Mill that controls most of the young kids game market these days. And there was good news last year. There was going to be a faux 2D adventure game made by the Fruit Ninja team and written by Joe Brumm, the creator. It then came out last year on Apple, then a week or two ago on Android, and it comes out later this year on console, June according to my local physical shop, but that looks very much like a placeholder. So I bit the bullet, paid the $15 bucks equivalent to unlock the full game, and I think I can say that this is the best Bluey game I've ever played. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean it's good. Like Bluey the video game, you could feel there is something here that could serve as a decent base for something special that just falls completely on its face. But it's a very slow fall, a lethargic, sometimes boring fall. It starts well enough. There are actual cinematics of the family sitting around a table during a rainy day, drawing around, which kicks off the adventure when Dad hogs the golden pen. Mum, being the wonderful artist that she is, draws the environments for us, and it's up to Bluey and Bingoose, our favourite little girl transformed into a goose, to save the day with the colour silver. There are a variety of languages to choose from, but just a word of warning. Unlike the previous console Bluey game, all of the cinematics are in English, just with subtitles. Just so you know that if you and your little one are used to another language, it's Bluey. But that's most of the voice work which goes into this game. For the gameplay itself, the majority is non-voiced, with only Bandit doing his usual duties and being the villain, but the rest is grunting and so forth. Fine, we're not going to lock up a bunch of kids to do video game voiceover work. Not everyone can wrap it up in an afternoon like Charlie Cox, and it solves for the horrible audio mixing in Bluey the video game. We're here to have ourselves a 2D adventure. Let's Zelda this. Okay, maybe we're echoes of the wisdoming this, because when we get control of Bluey, we have a wand to help us along our way. For technical reasons, I am using touchscreen controls, and I hated it. But even when using a controller, you'll always get this UI up, no option to remove it. But it's quite nice with only 2 action buttons ever used, plus a separate button for interacting with objects or people. Compared to some other kids games, everything can be on the face buttons by default, and there's nothing actually in the system to change that. It's fairly simple to begin with. You use your wand to destroy blocks or move bigger ones out of the way, all in the pursuit of things to collect. The first level, it's lollies. How you get those lollies? Well, there are some platforming puzzles to solve, some gnomes to seek out, there are quizzes, you can collect a certain number of beads, there are 3D Mario style challenge levels to be warped to, or Mario Galaxy style follow the shiny objects in a row before time runs out. And if that's not all, then you can collect bugs. Sometimes with wordplay that would make even Animal Crossing groan. Original, this is not, and if you've played Mario Galaxy, Sonic Frontiers, various Rare games in the late 90s, plus a bit of 2D Zelda or maybe even a bit of Toe Jam and Earl, then none of this should come as a surprise gameplay-wise. Collect enough things and Mum comes along to give you the chance to be whisked to the end and move on to the next level. And then the plot kicks in full. Dad's stolen a gold pen, what about a silver pen? Trouble is, things don't look very silver. These are some pretty lead chippies. I feel sorry for this guy. All he did was follow the money, and now he's going to get lead poisoning. We get a few variations along the way, but there's very little deviation to the core gameplay loop. There are 9 levels covering a bunch of locations, but mostly the same with different palettes, and all feeling rather empty. I mentioned Sonic Frontiers. It reminds me of that in that you're traversing this lonely land, sometimes pretty land, in pursuit of something to do. When you find something to do, things pick up momentarily, but sometimes the puzzle can be easy, and the distraction is quickly over. But something Sonic has which Bluey doesn't is speed. There is a lethargy in the movement which could possibly be solved by a run button, but that doesn't fit into the touchscreen controls. So instead, we just traverse. It's not slow, but it feels slow. One level, you do get a bike though. Only one level. And it breaks the cardinal sin of modern day parenting. Where's your helmet?
This was the 80s, man. There were no helmets. It was a wild place.
It's 2026, protect your noggin, because I fell. A lot. There are also other ways to traverse, like a glider, a jetpack. Your wand can become a grapple hook, but these don't really speed you up. There's also ice skating during the ice levels, because you simply must, especially with touch controls. This is quite fun, actually, and another throwback to Mario Galaxy, but still, just one level. Sorry, I forgot minecarts since mining is a big thing in Australia. But the only thing is these traverses from one area to another. They also use a kind of a, the warpy minigame thing. It's not an instant win, but it is a lot easier than other franchises involving minecarts, one of which just got its Switch 2 update. Oh, I suck at minecarts. And I also forgot about the speedboat, which shows why the minecart is needed. The third level's performance isn't great. This is why I couldn't use Android's own recording function, and therefore my backbone, because this is when my phone's thermals began to suffer. I'm not rocking a top-end phone by 2026 standards, but my Pixel 8 here should still be okay with this. I feel like the devs maybe do this though, because the third level is the only large level without transitions between little zones. The frame rate stabilised during later levels, and yes, there were dips every now and then, but the general experience was fine. The phone stayed hot, but it's January, and in my part of Europe it's rather cold right now, so that's not a bad thing. The settings are rather bare bone, nothing for graphics, so be warned if your phone is not the best in the world. Especially since the demo, which is just the first level, isn't really a good indicator of how much this game is going to push your system. It also makes me wonder how it's going to perform on the original Switch when it comes out later this year. Which probably explains why the world seems so barren, why they are only populated with garden gnomes or bandits' dog friends. You have a whole bunch of Bluey characters, some of which you've seen do some LARPing during the kindergarten episodes, so thematically you could have had Queen Chloe, Knight Rusty, or the evil dragon Snickers roaming about, but no. Gnomes, more gnomes, and sometimes some generic dogs to outwit by playing rock, paper, scissors. I suppose this is where my disappointment comes to the fore, because for something which describes itself as an original story-led adventure game, there's very little in the way of actual story taking place in the gameplay itself. Any chance at providing a narrative is relegated to the animated bits in between the levels, which itself is just them sitting around the table. And that's not a bad thing, just look at the mini-episodes where Bandit tells them the 3 little pigs. But for something which is positioning itself as an imaginative take on the Bluey universe, it's incredible how hollow and bland it all is, albeit pretty. Chili being able to draw served narrative purpose. Here it's just to be so that the levels don't look awful, but why can't they look awful? Awful can be fun. Why have levels at all? Look at what the Unfinished Swan did at the beginning. Unfinished Swan, of course, being a game where the protagonist goes away to save the day with a silver paintbrush. Wait a minute, silver paintbrush, silver pen? No, couldn't be. Anyway, back to the review. Or even here, where they try to do the invisible platform thing from the, again, Mario Galaxy. I'm going to spoil the end now. Don't worry, I'll put some placeholder text here with the timestamp to go to, and hopefully YouTube will convert it to the necessary bit at the bottom. You can skip ahead if you don't want to know how it ends. Ready? Okay. Of course, you get to Hyrule Castle and you have to make your way through, but at this point I think I was rather fed up with the whole thing, so I was doing the bare minimum in the levels just to see it out. But you're going through a corridor, a very long corridor, a seemingly never-ending corridor. Now, if anyone's ever played the other Bluey video game, then maybe you know that the way it presents itself, the house is a bit like Spencer Mansion in size, so perhaps these dogs are used to going long distances. This is just so boring though. I haven't been this bored by a corridor since the Medium, and at least during that corridor they had talking. Now, we get to the final boss. It's a giant statue of Bandit, and our job is to Nintendo our way up to defeat it. Nintendo? Yes, Nintendo. Because we're alternating between Captain Toad treasure tracking our way up a structure, and then we have to ride a minecart to get rid of all of the gold, like... Wait, there was something last year along those lines, right? Ah, that was it. Thanks, DK. There is even a twist that they decide to back out of for the sake of a joke, and it's a pretty decent joke, but oh, what could have been if Bandit wasn't the true last boss? Maybe it could have been an incentive for 100%ing the game, but right now that doesn't seem to be the case. Spoilers done? Yeah, I think this spoiler rant is done. Welcome back everyone else. So like I said, I played the entirety of this game using touch controls. But I also played the first 3 levels using a controller, so I know that my complaints around touch controllers are resolved by the simple fact that you can't use a controller easily on it. Yes, the UI isn't removed, like I said earlier, but you can tell from the fact that the screen is cut off that the resolution of a phone nowadays is slightly larger than 1080p, so you're not losing out on much in terms of screen real estate. It's also a game where you don't have to collect all the things to progress, so if something is too hard for you, given your controller of choice, then you can go somewhere else and do that instead. But still, this is not a walk in the park, and whilst not difficult, it's certainly a leap beyond the other Bluey games, which are, to be honest, insultingly easy to anyone but a small child. There are times here where you require precision and dexterity. There are a lot of the not quite Mario musical note puzzles where you have to collect all of the things in a given time. There are blocks which only activate for a certain period of time, and there are moving blocks. There are blocks which appear and disappear again when using an item. Do not think that just because it's a PEGI free rating, or E for everyone, that it's appropriate for that age. It just means that you don't hit anything. Here I am, a grown adult, father of 2, who has completed countless Mario and Sonic games, let alone the likes of Celeste and Meat Boy, struggling to keep in a straight line on a bike whilst jumping to collect all the things, or struggling to combine both the jetpack and the glider to traverse the chasms, or failing to shoot a wand in a straight line, time and time again. Some of the frustration would be remedied by using a controller, but there's a difficulty here which would still not be suitable for the youngest of young ones, even with a controller. You'd think that there would be some sort of co-op in play, since there is a seemingly always Bingo or Bingoose and Bluey on the screen at the same time, but no, there isn't. There is a plot reason as to why this wouldn't make sense, but this seems to be one of those games where your child could come up to you and say, "Daddy, can you beat this block puzzle, please?" And it would have been a nice game to have played with the little one. Mario's already solved for this by having the bubble system for lagging players. ToeJam and Earl did this with the split screen. And yes, I played this on Android, and it's not like it's a very social gaming system, but for Apple TV or propping up an iPad, or for when it comes out on console, then it could have been a nice addition. Another trip to the store page. Yes, it's saying single player for the console version. Anything else I need to get off my chest? Oh yeah, the music. Bluey is known for its great music, and not just that one track on Just Dance, which is the only one that my kid wants to dance to, despite me paying for Just Dance Plus or whatever the subscription service is called. Here's a selection of different levels from the game. I want to go to sleep. Speaking of sleep, here's space in Bluey the TV show. And here's space in the game. Yeah. Also, you see I can take control of Bingo. She just honks in the game. Honk. Yeah, it gets a little bit annoying. Okay, nice things. Let's stick a compliment in this critical sandwich. Adult humour is back, and by that I don't mean fart jokes, but jokes for us parents. How do you get rid of the council workers? You announce it's lunchtime. They're going to be gone for a very, very long time. That pothole is not going to be addressed. Is it the most hilarious thing ever? No, but it's there. You also have Dave McCormack giving his all to help us remind us all that Bandit is one of the best dads in all of TV. Yeah, that sounds awful as a compliment, doesn't it? Fundamentally, this is a game which has potential, but will most likely forever remain unfulfilled. I'm left thinking about what could have been rather than what is right there in front of me. And in the wasteland that is video games based on properties for young kids, this isn't the chosen one. If you jump up to PEGI 7, then there are a bunch of experiences which offer the same but better. Albeit one thing that the game should be lauded for, which is its use of non-violence. It's hard to find this kind of game where you're not swinging a sword or shooting off an arrow at a random moment. Those where you don't, like your albas, your short hikes and others, you're also having to contend with a 3D space which involves camera control and other complications, which means that whilst thematically it's suitable for PEGI 3, mechanically it no longer is. There was a bit of hope with Echoes of Wisdom, but no, you just get other people to fight for you in the beginning and you can still throw pots at people. The anchor for this being a Bluey game are the parts that aren't actually a game, it's the animated scenes. Take that out, you are left with a generic adventure / collectathon, because whilst you can identify the protagonists and the gnomes, there's nothing else here which screams out Bluey. That's fine, I suppose. There's multiple Garfield racing games and he's one of the laziest beings imaginable. Slapping properties onto games has been done before and will be done again. I suppose my issue is that I had some expectations for this one. This had the creator involved. It was made locally by seemingly hand-picked developers. You know, I have South Park, the stick of truth in my mind as a measuring stick. You can even go back to things like Chronicles of Riddick, where Vin Diesel set up his own development studio to co-develop it with Starbreeze. Oh, please re-release that game. But yeah, it was not to be this time. So let's talk about a problem in the future though. I spent the equivalent of, what's the dollar at now? Yeah, still 15 American dollar bucks to unlock the full game. I saw the credits in about 2.5 hours. You go look at the physical pre-orders for most consoles, that's going to be 40 American dollars. Except Switch 2, which is $10 extra. I don't think it's announced if it's going to be a keycard or not, but since it's taken up 1.3 gig on my phone, then yeah, it's probably going to be a keycard. Unless there is a lot of work, fundamental work performed in the next 6 months, then it is absolutely not going to be worth that much. There is extra value there in getting 100%, but from what I can tell, it just turns a level gold. There are better games to foster 100%ing something. I'm sure someone will chop up the animations into a YouTube video, and you could do like Bluey & Co. and just draw the game using your imagination. It'll probably come to PS Plus or Game Pass eventually if you really want to check it out, but yeah, for $40? No way. I don't think there's anything else to add to this incredibly professional review. Wait. Opinion piece? No, wait. Rants of a grumpy old man, but people rarely review kids' games. And if you look at how long to beat, then apparently I am the only person in the world that is beating this game. And if you leave it to user reviews on Metacritic, then you risk going into the dark world of where Garfield Kart is actually a good game. Thanks for making it this far. I hope it's been of some use to a poor soul wondering about this game out there. If you liked it, there's always the usual YouTube stuff that you can do. But until then, I'm going to continue my quest to find a kid's game that will knock my kids' socks off. And for that, I'm going to need a helmet. Wear your helmet. Bye-bye now.